There comes a moment in life when you realize something isn't serving you anymore. A habit, a belief, a coping mechanism, or a version of yourself that you've outgrown. And for many people, alcohol quietly becomes part of that story. Not always loudly destructive, but subtle and numbing, dimming, and disconnecting. We feel disconnected from ourselves, from who we are. And today's conversation is going to be about breaking free from alcohol, from victimhood, from old identities, and learn how to live undimmed, fully present, and deeply aligned with yourself and your life. Now, if before we begin, make sure you follow the advisor with Stacey Chillemi. And if this episode resonates with you, please share it with somebody who is ready for clarity and freedom. Now, my guest today is a very special girl. She is amazing. She has just authored a book. She has a very successful company that she runs, and her name is Cecilia, and she helps people break free from what no longer serves them, including alcohol, and to help you step into a new life of grace, presence, and purpose. Her journey includes motherhood, sobriety, and navigating breast cancer. And today she's going to share with you what it really looks like to reclaim your life without dimming yourself. Now, I am so excited to have you on the show today. Tell everybody a little about yourself and share to everybody about all these different things because you have a lot to have gratitude for. You've been through a lot and you've really overcome a lot. So share with everybody who you are and everything that makes you so special.
Thank you, Stacey. What a generous introduction. I appreciate your warmth and details there. Yeah, my name is Cecily Mack. I am a Northern California resident. I have kind of two big prongs of life, like so many of us do a professional prong and a personal prong. And professionally, I've been really fortunate to have a super dynamic career. I'm 51 now. I practiced law for 25 years. I led divisions of mid and late stage startups across music, media, crypto. I helped grow companies, buy companies, sell companies. It was really a fun journey. And over the last 4 or 5 years, I've transitioned all that experience into co-founding and running a venture fund called Wisdom Ventures. We back tech-enabled well-being companies, and you can learn more about that online. I think what's more interesting and the subject of our conversation today is the more personal journey that I have been on and how, in a really interesting way, that has become interwoven with what is now a pretty dynamic, also professional journey. You mentioned my book and other offerings I have in the world in connection to these experiences. I can say it really started in 2017 when I recognized I was approaching the end of my marriage. I had been really in denial about having to get a divorce for a while, but there was a very serious misalignment between my then husband and me, values wise, super basic things that need to exist for a marriage to function, not to mention thrive.
Mhm.
And so when we approached the end of 2017, I had one of those last straw moments. It wasn't a huge thing that happened that day, but it was the last thing that I was able to tolerate. And I knew at that moment that I had enough information I needed to make a shift. That sparked a 30-day break from any intoxicants. For me, my primary dimmer, as I refer to it, or self-soothing tool was alcohol.
Yeah.
And as I embarked upon that 30-day break to just make sure I had a clearer head and heart as I was going to figure out all of these shifts that were going to impact finances, children, community, family, home, even career, I noticed fairly early on in that 30 days how profound the positive effects of that break were.
Yeah.
So I kept going. That 30 days became 60 days, and then it became 90 days. And then I took a bet or a challenge, and I agreed to an entire year clear, as I referred to it, 2018. And what a series of awarenesses that sparked. I never self identified as an addict or an alcoholic. I never had a rock bottom. I never went into recovery. I never needed AA to support this shift. But I did notice that removing this thing from my life was really having a positive impact. And I also noticed that there was not a lot out there for me. There are wonderful resources for people who need to recover from addiction or alcoholism. There are recovery centers, the A model, countless resources available online or in person. But I felt like I was in this gray area between never drink
Mhm.
at all and drink so much you need physical help, and there wasn't much there.
Yeah.
And so I really made it my business to understand why I drank in the first place, the dynamics of my own family system from where I learned about self-soothing with alcohol, and how we as a culture are using a myriad of things just to get through difficulty and challenge. Um, so that led to really a deep amount of work in writing, engaging in socials, community learning, ultimately the book. I should also share that part of what's informed the prongs of my personal and professional efforts these days are about 5 years into that undimming journey and my written work and everything else. In the beginning of 2023, I was treated for breast cancer. I
Mm.
am gratefully well today, but a big part of my story is that I learned during that treatment about the link between alcohol and cancer.
Yeah.
And even with all of my years of kind of delving into the role alcohol plays, that hadn't really crossed my radar and my awareness. So I
Hmm.
have also made it part of my business to help raise awareness about the link between alcohol and cancer, particularly breast cancer. And so that's my personal and passion work today as it stands.
I love that. I love that. And I think it's so important that we bring awareness to people because, first of all, I don't think people realize the correlation between alcoholism and breast cancer. And I think, in our society, if you do, even if you Google, if you're trying to look how to go dry and you're in that gray area, like you said, and you're not, an alcoholic, but yet, you have the will to stop and you can go dry and you're looking for some support or some help, you're really not going to find much information. People started to come out and talk about going dry. And,
Yeah,
now you see the mocktails when you go into the restaurants and stuff like that. So,
amazing.
yeah, people are starting to get that dry, way of thinking and just going for it because they realize that it's not a good thing. But for the
Hmm.
longest time, for decades and decades and decades and decades, you could not find information on, that gray area. So I'm so glad that you're making it really more aware in society because when you Google, you really don't find that much information. You have to really kind of
Yeah,
scroll to find it. Now,
yeah.
Cecily, I wanted to start with your journey. Like for many people, change doesn't come from one dramatic moment. It comes from a quiet realization that something just doesn't feel right anymore. Can you take us to that moment where you began questioning what alcohol and other patterns were really giving you versus taken from you?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I had somewhat of an atypical experience in that I felt entirely normal about the way that I drank. I was
Yeah.
surrounded by professionals, peers, family, friends, community, family members, and we all kind of had a similar relationship with alcohol, which was we have a drink or two after work. We
Hmm.
go out in the evenings on weekends. We might not feel great on Saturday and Sunday morning, but we just carry on. And none of us had what looked like a problem. But when I took that first 30-day break and I started telling people, oh, yeah, I'm passing on wine tonight or I'm taking a month off, the very typical response I heard was, in fact, oh, I didn't realize you had a problem. This enraged me. For those of you not watching video, yes, Stacey, beautiful eye roll. That is exactly how I felt. What? And I have alcoholism in my immediate circle of life. I know what the grip of addiction looks like and how
Yeah.
terrorizing it can be, not only to the person, but sometimes even more the people around them. And so I really bristled when people made that
Yeah.
comment. And I got very defensive and very clear. I don't have a problem. I'm making a choice. I am
Yes.
choosing every day to not do this thing. And as I continued through the weeks and months, I started seeing that, yes, I thank goodness had the freedom and agency to make those choices. And I was not so far off the edge that I couldn't rein it back in and make changes that made my life feel better and more free. But I
Yeah.
also started looking at some of the ways I did drink is not healthy. I
Yeah.
opened the book with this really awkward story. Bless my publisher for encouraging me to include it. But the very first story I share is, I mean, it's hard for me to even talk about it. I was sitting in the passenger seat of our family car in the driveway with my then husband in the driver's seat and the two kids in the back. I think they were 5 and 9 at the time. And we were
Yeah.
about to go over the hill and go to the beach for the day, weekend morning, weekend morning. And I was so uncomfortable that morning because I knew that there was lack of integrity underway in our marriage. And
Hmm.
I didn't really want to ask the questions or face the music on those very painful truths. So I was
Yeah.
just kind of surviving this time together instead of being present and enjoying it. And I did this crazy thing. I said, "Hey guys, sorry, I forgot something in the house. I'll be right back." Engine running. I got out of the passenger seat of the car. I walked in the front door. I went to the kitchen, went to the corner, opened up the cabinet, reached up, pulled down a bottle of vodka, took a shot of vodka, put the bottle back, closed the cabinet, went back to the car, thinking of my mother's voice telling me, even as a kid, you can't smell vodka. So there was sneakiness, there was self-soothing, there was sort of an edge of survivalism in the moment. And I got back in the car, and my then husband drove us over the hill, and we went and had a day at the beach. And I just had something in me that thought I would be able to handle this a little bit better with some booze in me, which maybe I
Yeah.
did. And, in that time after I'd stopped reflecting, I really look at that moment as not a rock bottom moment. I didn't recognize in the moment that that was wrong. I had been taught that that's what you do.
Exactly.
But in looking back, oh my gosh, like the self-grace and self-compassion I finally now can feel for myself,
Yeah.
how much I was suffering and how I did not have tools with which to handle that difficulty that weren't in this, now I know, very kind of toxic, socially celebrated manner,
Yeah.
is so heartbreaking to me. So to your question, I think it was many, many months and then subsequent years of reflection after I stopped that I can see now how I was using something. And I use this word dimmer to sort of
Yeah.
soften and dim out the complexities and difficulties of life because I didn't have other ways to do it.
Wow. That's very powerful. You know, I I can, I'm sure and many people, including myself, can relate to that. It's sometimes you get to that point where you just want to you'll grab anything and you'll do anything just to get that, to escape because you're in survival mode. You're not
Yeah.
thriving, you're in survival mode and you'll do whatever you can just to get through the day because you're not connected with yourself. You're not feeling yourself. You're kind of stuck in life and you're not happy where you are. You don't know.
You
It's
don't
it's like
want to feel it,
you
right?
don't
It's
want to
like,
feel it. Exactly. Exactly.
and
You know?
I think one of the real interesting things about this whole arena is that it's not consumable specific. So, the book is Undimmed about the 8 awarenesses. That's kind of my
Yeah.
rewrite of the 12 steps. And I talk a lot about choice and talk a lot about agency and, these different awarenesses that we can bake into how we operate. And one of the really important things that I invite people to recognize is that no, this is not about alcohol. It's actually not
Hmm.
about pot or
Right.
any necessarily substance. It can be anything that we reach for
Yes.
to escape for a moment or self-soothe. And I
Exactly.
am not myself free of these. I don't think any of us are. We all have them in
Mhm.
some way, shape, or form. It's
Yeah.
making sure that we have healthy relationship. One of my more active ones these days is social media or
Hmm.
email, just phone.
Yeah.
Like you're standing in line at the post office
Hmm.
and it's awkward. You want to make eye contact with the person next to you. You don't want to make small talk. Everyone's kind of, in this weird setting of
Yeah.
strangers and taskiness. And 90% of us have our phones in our hands. And
Yeah.
it's just to kind of soften it. Look at teenagers. They're so the same. We learn how to kind of have these micro moments of escape, which can become quite dangerous if we don't. at least develop an awareness around them and a consciousness around them.
Oh, 100%. That behavior started when cell phones came into play. We've gotten so involved with technology that we've forgotten how to communicate with one another. We forgot how to really open ourselves up to emotion and share emotion, whether it be happiness or and sadness or vulnerability, being able to share something, private with somebody else. Those things are kind of like, people are having a hard time with that communication.
Yeah.
Now when it comes with alcohol, alcohol is so deeply woven into our culture, like celebrations, stress relief, parenting, socializing. Why do you think so many people struggle to ever question their relationship with alcohol, especially when it doesn't look bad enough on the surface?
Yeah. Well, it's awkward. It's such a social, professional glue that
Mhm.
opting out of it not only can make us uncomfortable, but can also make the people around us uncomfortable. I
Yeah,
talk to people all the time who they say things like, I have these three reasons I want to drink less or not at all. And for
yeah,
many, it might be women initiating menopause, or it might be
mhm,
they're aware of a cancer predisposition, or it may be that they want to lose a little weight. I mean, there are dozens and dozens of reasons to slow down our drinking.
yeah,
But, then the next question is, but how would I survive that in my relationship? That's
hmm
how my partner and I connect at the end of the day.
yeah,
Or that's how we celebrate the good times with family. Or
right,
how would I keep up with my colleagues in the networking circles or professional obligations if I'm not playing along with alcohol? And
hmm
boy, do I empathize with that. Those are
yeah,
really, really tough experiences to opt out in that moment and just face the consequences of being the outlier. I
hmm
did this, you know, full tilt in my journey. I went on the family vacations where I was the only adult not drinking at night. Super
yeah,
difficult. I
yeah,
went to whiskey tastings with all the bros and my tech bro culture companies where I
yeah,
didn't drink the whiskey. I went to the karaoke night in Tokyo again with the executives and was the only sober one. And
yeah,
in this very alcohol infused setting, it's super, super hard. And, I think people need to first of all, maybe not be so definitive or kind of uh, conclusive about their choices. It can be
yeah,
something as simple as I'm passing tonight or I'm not drinking tonight because, and for some people, it's more comfortable to lie. Like I had somebody that I spoke with last week, they said, I just lie and say I'm allergic or I have a medical procedure the next morning. I'm not allowed to
a great
drink. And
idea.
they just like,
Yeah,
it's not me. I wish I could drink with you. That's their cover up.
yeah,
There are different ways and different settings that we can manage that. But I think that the times that we're in are creating more and more space for that choice. And in fact, I'm finding now I never have anybody say to me anymore, I didn't realize you had a problem. That's so 2018 language. What I
yeah,
hear more now is, oh my gosh, that's so cool. How did you do that? How do you
yeah,
feel? What changed in your life? And, I think that one of the things I can say that people realize they need to change is maybe just tweak their circumstances a little bit to be more accommodating. When I
yeah,
first paused, I was so socially confused. I still wanted to go to the girls' weekends. I still wanted to do these professional events, but they
yeah,
were alcohol soaked. And I went to a therapist who's very fluent in the addiction and self-medication fields.
yeah,
And I said, but everybody drinks.
yeah.
And he laughed at me. He literally like tipped back and laughed. And I was a bit offended. I said, "Well, let's hear what you got. What do you mean? Why do you think that's so funny?" He said, "Cecily, everybody doesn't drink. You've just surrounded yourself with people who do." And
Yeah,
there is so much truth in that.
that is.
It's fascinating. I mean, we have gatherings in our home, we go to events, we go to dinners, we attend retreats, we participate in all kinds of social things. I would say maybe 20% of the people drink some, but very modestly in our
Yeah,
immediate social circle. Whereas 10 years ago, everybody was drinking and to a point of inebriation. it was
Yeah.
just sort of shifting a bit in the circle and what we're attracted to and where we want to spend our time. It doesn't mean going zero on girls' weekends. It might just
Yeah.
mean going on day one and leaving at 8 o'clock at night and you had a
Right.
fantastic day. Or
Hmm.
going to the whiskey tasting, but cracking a joke and not being there for more than 45 minutes. Like
Right.
there's so many creative ways to sort of participate without making it miserable.
It's so true, so true. And I love the comment where you made, where, you feel so awkward and then your therapist was like, you just surrounded yourself with a lot of people. We don't really, you don't think about that, and it's
Mm,
so true. The energy we bring in is the people we bring in. So if we're
yeah,
into that party mode or we have to survive, and alcohol is going to get us through it, that energy is going to bring those type of people to us. And we're going to be surrounded by those people. And they say, what is it? The closest seven people around you are the people you become,
yeah,
So we really have
yeah,
to think about, if we want a certain lifestyle, if we want to be alcohol free, if we want to be able to not have to rely on a substance in order, any type of addictive behavior in order to get us through, then we have to really put it out there that,
yeah.
want to live a different, more positive manifesting lifestyle that's going to make us more fulfilled. Now
And
you,
go to the places where those people are. I just want to add a little footnote on
yeah,
that. Um,
definitely.
One of the things that I've really discovered and started spending more and more time in is early morning activities. It
Hmm.
might be a running group or a race. It might be the farmer's market. It starts, early or early flea markets or early yoga classes or whatever it might be.
Yeah,
The people who are showing up between 6 and 8 a.m. on Saturday and Sunday, for the most part, are not boozing hard the
yeah,
night before. And I found that I've just sort of nurtured relationships over the years with a growing community of people who just keep a different schedule.
yeah,
Their kind of life day-to-day values are different. And
yeah.
it's been very easy to find new kind of social fabric in that way of intention.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Now, you openly shared your experience with breast cancer and you've walked through a personal journey with that as well. Now, how
Yeah.
did your experience change your relationship with your body, your choices, and the way you care for
Mm.
yourself?
Oh, such a beautiful and important question that we should really all be considering. Like, how do we have a healthy relationship with our bodies? And I think probably for me, the biggest one is learning how to not, it's funny, I never thought about it this way, learning how to not dim out the signal that I have around what I need.
Yeah.
So we live in this culture of power through, ignore fatigue, overcome the desire to rest,
Hmm.
attend that final meeting, show up for that business trip that you really don't want to board the plane for. We self abandon constantly because our
Yes.
culture and our society is telling us that performance, optimization, achievement, growth, expansion, earnings, materialism, these are all the keys to happiness. And so
Yeah.
we live in this perpetual state of hustle and achieve. And in fact, many of us don't actually have that ability or that interest. In fact, we're
Mhm.
using caffeine or we're using alcohol or we're
Yes.
using other tools to kind of force us through our discomfort.
Yeah.
And I really learned in my cancer experience, and it was such a wake up call for me that that is not the way. It's terrible for me, and it's frankly terrible for my family.
Yeah.
um, I had my, the discovery journey itself was such a metaphor for me. In March of 2022,
Hmm.
realized that I was working too hard. I was the COO of a $3 billion crypto infrastructure company that I helped
Hmm.
build over 2 years from a team size of 11 and
Yeah.
barely making payroll. So I had been working very, very hard, and I saw that I was kind of missing out on some of the important things that really mattered in my life. I have this vivid memory of being in my car and having my one-on-one call with my CEO,
Yeah.
and I was parked outside of my son's theater practice or something. Like,
Yeah.
again, classic multitasking and probably making an Amazon groceries order on my phone while I'm talking to him, waiting for my kid,
Yeah.
trying to hold the Wi-Fi signal for the Zoom, like whatever. And I remember telling him I'm gonna actually need to step away from this role. And
Yeah.
he didn't want me to do that. And we talked about it a little while. And long story short, it took about 9 months to phase out of that role. But along that way, so that's March of 22, 3 months later in June of 22, I felt a lump in my breast. We were on vacation. And I remember feeling it was like a little pea size right over my heart on my left breast. And I
Mm.
thought, that's so weird. We don't have any, breast cancer in the family. I just had a mammogram 8 months
Yeah.
ago. There wasn't anything in the mammogram. That's odd. I'll get it looked at when I get back. And when I came home from that vacation, I had, this is also telling, I had my assistant book a medical appointment for me with my
Yeah.
doctor, which landed on my calendar for all the way out in December, a full 5 or 6 months away. And I remember seeing it pop up and thinking, I should probably get an earlier appointment. I'll just call my doctor and ask for an earlier appointment so I don't have to wait that many months. There is a lump in my breast. You know
Right.
what? I didn't do it. I was so busy and caught up in all the taskiness of my career and my family and everything else. I just postponed, postponed, postponed. And each week or two I postponed, I was a week or two closer, and I thought I'll just do it in December. So when I finally went in December, it was appointment, then another appointment, and a biopsy and a call. And what a wake up for me. I remember looking in the mirror the morning after my diagnosis, brushing my teeth, and I didn't feel fear of cancer. I felt
Ah,
relief that I could rest.
wow. That's powerful.
Nobody could tell me it was a bad idea to leave the COO role of this multi-billion dollar company I'd helped to build because I should see it through to the end. Just power through, Cecily.
Yeah.
Make it to the end. There's a big pot of gold for you if you just override your discomfort for a few more years. Then you'll have financial freedom. It was like, no, dude, actually, there's now a very black and white, crystal clear justification for me to leave this and take care of myself.
Yeah.
And so the thing that I extract from that and the way that that informs the way I live my life now is a lot more spaciousness around listening to what I need. If I
Yes.
don't feel like doing something because I need a day of rest, or I need to not go on a trip because a family member is going to be much better off if I'm home with them, then I'll actually listen to that. And I'm sorry, folks, it's inconvenient, it's uncomfortable. I apologize, but the stakes of life are so high. And I really do. I mean, a whole bunch of theories about how and why I got cancer in the first place. But I really think that as a culture, we're kind of crumbling a bit because we do self abandon so much. And these
Yeah.
chronic illnesses and prevalence of cancer are kind of these ways of getting us to actually slow down and stop and be
Oh, I
home
believe.
and learn,
Yeah.
listen, rest, ease, nourish. So there's all the interesting health stuff, exercise and what we eat. And you have many experts I know on your show who talk about these, but this
Mhm.
is, for me and my experience, maybe a unique one. It was a real eye opener around self abandonment and how essential it is that we do not do that.
Yeah, you remind me like so I catch myself doing that, it's like, okay, I got to get this done. I got to get this done. And then even if I don't have the energy, sometimes I'm like, I really have to get it done because it has to be done by da 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 da. And then,
Yeah.
and a couple of days ago, all my systems just crashed out of nowhere. Everything was fine. And then all of a sudden, all my technologies, I walk into my studio, I walk into my office, everything goes down. It was just flickered lights. My system went down, came back up, had all these errors. All my tech people were working on it, couldn't get it going. It was like
Wow.
3 days until they fixed it. And I thought to myself, this must be a sign from God. This must be a sign from the spirits and the angels above, or the people who love me that are watching over me. And it's like slow down, Stacey. Slow
Yeah.
and I really feel that, if whether, we do have to listen to our inner selves. And when we don't and we choose not to, and our inner instincts are always right, but we don't always listen to it. But if we don't listen to it, I always believe that when we see signs like this, that's like a big whammer, like
Yeah.
wake up, I'm talking to you, you're not listening, slow down.
Yeah. So true. And, can I ask, can you recall what, if anything, happened in those 3 days that was allowed by the spaciousness of not having your technology?
I was able to actually relax because I couldn't do the things I wanted to do. So I had to just like you, I had to call clients up and say, listen, I'm having some problems. We're going to have to reschedule. I couldn't look at my emails,
Oh,
everything had to be put aside. So those 3 days were just about me and renew. And
beautiful.
what it felt good. It kind of restarted my whole engine and it made me think about, that it's time, Stacey, to relax and really put priorities in line. And we always come first because when it comes to illness, the number one cause of illness is stress. And
Yeah.
stress breaks down the walls of our immune system and it lets anything in. And that
Yeah.
can cause cancer, that can cause any type of illness. And if you have
Yeah.
an illness, stirring up, or you have abnormal, cancerous cells that are not active yet, they could easily become active when we bring
Yeah.
stress in our lives and we don't control our lives and live the lives that we're supposed to live.
Yeah. And we've gotten so good at overriding those signals and
Yeah,
ignoring the symptoms of chronic stress or burnout that sometimes it's going to be a tech crash, sometimes it's going to be a diagnosis. I've had two other times that I remember in my life. One was a back injury, and one was
yeah,
this weird skin condition that kept me inside for 2 weeks, one in
right.
my 20s, one in my 30s. And I
Wow.
can see so clearly now that was my body saying, time out,
Yes.
enough, like time out, just stop, stop
Yeah,
going, stop doing, stop producing, stop engaging, stop talking, stop all of it.
yeah,
And I'm so grateful to our systems that allow that. And I think the invitation is really around how can we notice those signals before there's a full crisis?
yeah,
How can we how can we notice like, oh wow, that's 4 nights in a row I woke up at 3 in the morning to
yeah,
think about this complicated relationship. That's 4 nights in a row where I couldn't get to sleep. Or
yeah.
that's 3 days in a row where I abandoned my commitment to not eat sugar this month.
Mhm.
Like, what are we not dealing with that
Yeah,
we're just like pushing through? And I think so much beauty can come from that. And not only in ourselves, but when we show other people around us where our priorities lie, whether it's in
yeah,
our own health or well-being or taking care of loved ones, they then feel permission to do the same thing.
yeah,
I tell this story in some of my writing around when I was in that crazy crypto COO job. And
yeah.
I was, you know, top few of the company and we had all kinds of responsibility and hundreds of employees around the planet. Oh, an all executive team offsite invitation came through for March 1st in Dublin, Ireland. And I saw that email and I thought, okay, so 6 weeks out, March 1st, that is my son's 10th birthday.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm not gonna miss that, actually.
Right.
I share
Yeah,
custody with his dad, so I only have half the time with him anyway. And I
exactly.
replied all on that email right away, standing at my kitchen counter. And I said, this sounds like a great meeting, and I'm so glad everybody's convening. I will not be attending. March 1st is my son's 10th birthday, and I do not miss birthdays anymore. And it was like a
Good for
little
you.
bomb went off in the executive circle of the company. And it was fine. Eventually, actually, it was rescheduled. No
Yeah,
loss there. But when I left about a year later, I had so many people come and tell me that in that gesture and then similar gestures in all hands meetings where I helped encourage people to prioritize their well-being in their lives, that they were able to then do the same and their stress level with work went way
yeah,
down because they knew that if they needed to do something for themselves or their families, they weren't going to be punished for it. because if the
Yes.
COO is doing it, we can too.
Right.
And oh wow, like I didn't even think about that in the moment. I was just thinking about myself and my kid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think celebrating all this like pushing through stuff that CEOs in particular often do can be extremely toxic. And so
Yeah.
when we have a chance to show a different way, I think it's a real opportunity.
Oh, 100%. Yes, 100%. Now, one thing that really resonates so well with many parents is your message about parenting without alcohol in the mix. Now, what have you noticed? Like, what shifts is the most emotionally, energetically, and relationally, like when you show up fully present for your children?
Yeah. Oh, this could be a whole nother book, by the way. This is such a good
If
topic.
you-
In my world, there's really like, so my oldest son is 18. I quit 8 years ago. So I have a very clear before and after. And
hmm
so does he, frankly, and his younger brother, who's 4 years younger. I have such a, 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 a dividing line. So when I was still drinking socially, I was pretty absent. I mean, I was physically there,
Yeah.
but I didn't have a true presence with the kids.
Yeah.
I
hmm
would read stories and at night and skip pages because I was eager to get back to the social stuff in the living room.
Right.
I would take them to parties or gatherings and kind of let them run free and not really notice if they were okay or fed or hydrated or, whatever. I just kind of like let them be more in the swirl with the other kids while the parents were all kind of drinking and hanging out.
Right.
Um, I didn't really notice the nature of their art that they were bringing home from school or how much of their lunch they ate or what they wanted to talk about, if anything, at bedtime. It was kind of like we were on autopilot. So much was just day to day, in, out, go, pack, do, delivered, clean, shower, home, bed, up again, start over. It just didn't, it felt very robotic. And
Yeah.
so when I paused, I immediately felt like I had a bit of a superpower of noticing in all kinds of areas of life.
Yeah.
You just see much more clearly. It sounds so cliche, but it's so true.
Mhm.
Things just get very clear.
Yeah.
And I did start seeing my sons very differently. I felt like I could discern and interpret the subtle signals of kids that were not that clearly discernible when I was a little bit dimmed out.
Yeah.
So, for example, and by the way, the consequences of that are like boundless. So, for example, noticing that the younger one didn't really want to go to sleep one night, but in a different way than not wanting to go to sleep in other nights,
Right.
like an anxious tirelessness, not a postponed because it's fun tirelessness.
Yeah.
And the little subtlety and like eye contact and his temperature, his clammy hands, I
Yeah.
was able to say, "Hey, buddy, you want to talk before we go to sleep? Let's go make a cup of tea." And we're overriding bedtime, and I know that's not the rules, but let's go like have a chat. And then I learn, oh, you have a presentation in front of your class tomorrow. Tell me about how you feel about that.
hmm
Oh, it's scary. I'll bet it's scary. Let's talk about why that's scary. How can you self-soothe in a healthy way in that moment of scariness before you go stand up in front of your class? And it was a conversation both before it happened and then after it happened that would have never taken place if I was kind of
Right.
filled out. You
Yeah.
know, I also I just found more room to be present with them because I was finding more room to be present with myself. Um,
Exactly.
Another similar experience, like kid barely brushes his toe on a soft bag on his way across the room as we're packing up to move to dad's that afternoon and
Right.
crumbles into tears crying, my toe, my toe. You know, I think a prior version of me would be like, get up, put your clothes and shoes on, and let's get to practice.
Yeah.
Hustle, hustle, go, 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 override, ignore.
Right.
But I
hmm
really was able to see, oh, this is not about the bag or the toe.
Yeah.
Like, let's skip practice and like have a little space. So that was really a big deal. And now that they're teenagers, we just have a really different relationship than I did with my parents at that age when
Yeah,
frankly we were all kind of drinking.
right.
Um, which is amazing. It's such a gift. It's probably the biggest gift of this entire journey for
It really is. It really is. It's so nice when we can take that extra time and be able to really have, be able to bond with our children because I think when we're so busy, we are just on the go, on the go, on the go, and we have to get this done. And time goes by so fast, and memories go by so fast. And
me. Yeah.
before you know it, those little kids are almost grown up. And if we didn't spend that quality time, that's when some of the guilt comes in. And it's like, but
Oh,
you had a valid reason, but then you look and you're in that you still feel guilty because what did I miss out on? And
yeah.
that, you know, it's
That was one of
important.
the toughest things for me when I paused was when I did have that realization. And I write about this in the book. Um, I don't know if I can swear on your podcast, but
Yeah.
my my first my first thought when I realized how checked out I'd been was, oh shit, the kids. Like
Yeah.
everyone had been, again, I'm gonna use that word autopilot. And I really fell into this little tunnel of shame and guilt for a while. Like, what have I missed? What did I blow? What did I really screw up here?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't just drinking. It was like I was so busy with my career and like travel for work and busy social life. My ex-husband was a DJ, and I just was like, what have I done to like miss out on this precious time? And I eventually was able to see to some degree, I was doing my best with the resources I had in that moment. And feeling really terrible about what could have been different is not a path for anybody to healing. Like, yes, I can learn from the mistakes. I can recognize I may have done things differently with what I know now then. But, one of the cool things about this is I have a really open conversation with the kids about how life can change and how we can be on one path and realize it's maybe not the right path for us and
Yeah.
shift course and then learn. And that's fine. Like, don't not make a positive change because you don't want to deal with the consequences of wishing you'd done it sooner. Like, that's
Yeah.
ridiculous. I just like
Ex-
do the thing. And even if
Exactly.
it's a baby step, it doesn't have to be magnificent. It could be, I'm going to go to the gym once this week. I'm going to
Yes.
not drink on at home anymore. I
Hmm.
am going to, you know, dial back my perfectionism for the sake of all beings. I'm not going to do generous things for people to make myself feel good, but because I actually want to from a place of love and care. And that might mean doing less generous things,
Yeah.
whatever it might be.
That's so true. So true. Now, people are often hardest on themselves during periods of growth. How do you help people practice self-grace instead of shame when they're realizing how to actually release old habits and learn new ways of being?
Yeah. I mean, I'll go back to this comment about really, really believing that everyone is doing their best in any given
Hmm.
moment, including
Yeah.
ourselves. And I use this term self-grace a lot. It's
Yep.
hard to describe self-grace. It's not quite self-compassion, although
Yeah.
they're cousins.
Hmm.
Self-grace to me is a little bit more of like a gentleness and an understanding. And the best way for me to describe self-grace is to put your hand over your heart and
Right.
just the feeling of that gesture of I'm okay. I've done my best. I'm doing my best, like one moment at a time, one breath at a time. There's something that can be very self-soothing about just accepting ourselves for who and how we are in any given moment.
Yeah.
And it's really it starts with us. When we have that capacity and that ability, we then learn we can extend that to other people. I
Hmm.
don't know how much you yourself have experienced like real frustration or disappointment or hurt or pain from another person in life. This
Yeah.
was one of the kind of core arcs of my journey in my undimming 8 years was I realized I was hanging on to a lot of bitterness. I was
Yeah.
pissed off at two people who had at one time been the closest to me, my mother and my ex-husband, because they really disappointed me. My late mother died of esophageal cancer, alcoholism, depression 14 years ago when my second son was just 9 months old. And when she finally passed after years of self harm and torture, I was relieved and angry. And
Yeah.
that wasn't helpful to me or my family. It took a while, but I finally realized because I had extended similar grace to myself, she was really just doing the best she could. And
Yeah.
similarly with my ex-husband, I may have felt very wronged by him and betrayed by him and hurt by him. And it sucked the first 3 years after our divorce. Like I was pissed and I was
Yeah.
carrying that around, and our kids had to experience it because they saw the tension between us. But there's a certain time where I recognize, hey, like he was actually really doing his best.
Yeah.
He was meeting these circumstances with the tools he had. And so in putting all that ick down, all that frustration and anger and disappointment down, it opened up new channels of all kinds of things, both within myself and with the people around us. My sons now, the grandsons of my mom, don't see her the way that maybe they would have had I not made this shift with her later. They
Hmm.
see her as somebody who really had a lot of pain in their life and didn't really know how to handle the pain and reached
Yeah.
for a whole variety of things over the years and never really found relief. And how sad that she wasn't able to stay on with us. And we love
Yeah.
her from afar. And
Right.
similarly with their dad, it's like, yeah, he has certain things in his life that make him have certain values and priorities that are maybe different than mom's, but he's a wonderful person in so many other ways. And we celebrate him as a father, and now holidays and birthdays together. And like we make the magic happen. But it
Right.
took a lot of inner letting go
Yeah.
and hopefully modeling for them that we can do that too.
Yes. Oh, that's beautiful. And I can relate to you in a lot of ways, and I think there's a lot of people out there that have gone through that too, and sometimes we have to just put ourselves in their shoes and think about how, that they never did get that peaceful way of dealing with things. And they were just looking for ways to cope. And because of the environment they came from, they never were taught those coping skills and they were kind of lost. And so the only behaviors they knew were the ones that they were taught, and they kind of
Yeah.
just amplify those, sadly. But
Yeah.
you speak
Yeah.
powerfully about victimhood, and not as judgment, but as a place that many people get stuck. Like, how does victimhood keep people dimmed? Like, what's the first shift someone can make to reclaim their energy and
Yeah.
agency?
There's this simple phrase that I myself refer to quite a bit, um, which is the difference between this happened and this happened to me. And if we can see that the this happened to me orientation with the world kind of keeps us maybe in a victim orientation if we want it,
Yeah.
um, that that can feel like armor and protection and righteousness to a point.
Hmm.
But if we can kind of shift that to this happened, it just this thing happened, but it's not necessarily to me. I am not the victim. It's just the circumstances happened.
Yeah.
Then we don't necessarily struggle so much with this like binary, you're bad, I'm good, this action, my consequences. We realize we actually have a lot more agency within ourselves to decide how we're going to respond to things. I
Yeah.
had an experience actually just 2 hours ago this morning. We're hosting 20 people at our home tomorrow evening. And every year I rent the same two tables and 20 chairs from a boutique events company near where we live that
Yeah.
has slow winters. And I realized this morning I was on my walk and I realized, wow, I haven't seen the delivery time for that yet. Interesting. So I opened up my email when I got back, and lo and behold, they sent me the contract 15 days ago in my inbox, and I didn't open and click confirm. So
Mm.
here we are with 20 people coming to our home tomorrow evening for dinner, and I have nowhere for them to sit. my first my first experience of this has been self-loathing, victimhood, anger, frustration. I went through all of it. Like, oh, we've been using this woman and tipping her well for years. Like, hopefully she'll take care of me, blah, 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 to a lot of frustration and rage with myself. Like, how could I blow this? Am I that busy where I can't open and read and respond to an email? Like, how did I get here? All of this ickiness. And
Yeah.
I'm really having to try to walk my own talk right now. And I'm not doing a perfect job, but it's like, this has happened. I know that these circumstances arose because of, whatever other things going on. And I can spend a bunch of time being angry with myself and create this whole emotional storm, or shift into let's get a little creative and see what else we can do. How are we going
Right.
to solve this problem? And I I have such a default mode to this is happening to me, and a little bit of the emotion of frustration and anger around it. And so I'm actively, like today, this morning, working on how do I change that to this happened? Things happen. How can I
Yes.
respond to it? Maybe even better, like how can I respond to it in a way that's kind of public in front of the kids so that they're very important 14 and 18 years old of development where they're more watching us than listening to the words we say. They can
Yeah.
see an adult in a moment of potential crisis not lose it.
Right.
Just like come up with a different way to handle it and have a sense of humor and a good attitude and maybe call someone for help or, find a creative solution. So this is all very alive, very active in getting out of that victim orientation, which can be such a trap.
Yeah, it definitely could be a trap. And when you talk about living undimmed, it's such a powerful phrase. What does undimmed life actually look like day to day? And how can someone begin stepping into that version of themselves today?
Yeah. You know, undimmed means to me, and I invite this in my book, really being present, being conscious, being aware, being somewhat intentional about what we're doing and how we're doing it, and
Yeah.
noticing that when something comes up that's unpleasant or uncomfortable or hard emotion, not necessarily reaching for the self-soothing, but letting the experience wash over and through us and
Yeah.
metabolize instead of pushing it down or away.
Right.
And that means when you get the unwelcome email or
Yeah.
the, for example, the news that I just blew it on our furniture rentals for this gathering tomorrow. Like instead of, saying, okay, I'm going to go to the cafe and get that sugary lemony muffin, I always try to not buy if you're by yourself and just like eat some sugar and feel better for 5 minutes or,
Mhm.
open Instagram and look at my friends' pretty pictures from the weekend
Yeah.
or maybe go have a really hard workout even though I should be on a recovery day today and resting. I think it's more like, okay, let's just let that be, be okay with it, metabolize it, talk about it, and move on. Like,
Yeah.
don't shove it away, push it away, dim it, dull it, medicate it.
Yeah.
And so an undimmed life means just moment to moment, noticing when things happen that we maybe don't want to feel and doing our best to feel them for a bit, let them
Hmm.
move through us. If we don't have the capacity or the resource in that moment to fully handle it, give
Yeah.
ourselves a little bit of time. Like I definitely have had things come up in the morning where they're difficult. I say, I have a full day of stacked meetings from 9 until 3. How am
Yeah.
I going to respond to this complicated email? And I can look at the calendar and say, okay, instead of pretending this didn't happen, I'm going to look at my calendar. I'm going to say, oh, that 2 to 3, that would easily be pushed till tomorrow. I'm going to
Yeah.
postpone that. I'm going to book an hour. I'm going to take a walk, have a cup of tea, do whatever I need to do, and then take the 30 or 40 minutes and respond to the situation in a way that feels true to me.
Yeah.
And the more we can do that, the more we're able to actually kind of show up in a way that is truer to us and our values. There's less self
Yeah.
abandonment, there's less victimization, which we've already talked about. It's like we're a little bit more like present and true in our systems. Now, it's, one of the things I love is seeing people when they do embark on an undimming journey. They'll see that they have one primary thing. Maybe it's social media or alcohol. Those are two really common, easy ones. And
Hmm.
one way to kind of shake that up is to take a 30-day break or 60-day break, just to
Yeah.
notice how much we miss them or when we use them. I have a friend right now who's on a 2-month social media and digital media break, full cold turkey stop. And I
Wow.
had a number of friends who've done 2 to 3 month alcohol breaks, just full cold turkey stop. And at the end of it, the reflections are amazing because they're
Yeah.
like, I'm not saying I'm never going to look at these things again or I'm never going to enjoy a glass of wine again, but I was sort of doing it unconsciously so much that it was taking me away from a lot of the magic of life. And now I can just be more thoughtful about it. When I have a
Yeah.
glass of Pinot Noir with a girlfriend in the corner table of the restaurant, I really enjoy the experience of sipping a glass of wine and the conversation and the candlelight and the view and the like. There's a whole sensory experience that can come with that. But maybe
Yeah.
before taking a pause, it was just like, oh, we have one, and can we have another? And like you're not present with it. Similarly
Yeah.
with social media, this friend of mine who's taking the 2 month break, she has a beautiful little girl, and she loves sharing pictures and videos of her daughter online. But it's, I think, maybe started feeling unhealthy in some way. And so, in taking her
Mhm.
pause, she's just developing an intentionality around it. So it's like, oh, I'm
Right.
thoughtfully sharing this and looking at this to communicate and relate and be relatable. And
Mm.
that's a completely different experience. So I think it's really about kind of that like presence and being in the actual moment.
Yeah. Now, what I'm really taking from this is that conversation is that freedom isn't about perfection. It's about honesty. It's about self-trust and choosing presence over numbing. That's where the real transformation begins. Now, if there's one message that you want listeners to carry with them today, especially after those who are feeling stuck or dimmed, what would that be?
Listen to yourself. I
Hmm.
really think we all have within us kind of some intuitive or gut guidance that helps
Hmm.
us know whether or not we should examine something in our lives or a habit or a tendency or a relationship or a career or a home or a community. We have this kind of inner compass that I'm
Hmm.
afraid through a lot of our dimming habits and other behaviors, we easily override or ignore. And in fact, that's why many of us reach for dimmers in the first place. It's
Yeah.
inconvenient to think about making a big change. But if
Yeah.
we can find a way to remove the distractions, even if it's just a few minutes a day, and just tune in, you're going to hear the guidance. You're going to hear your inner voice. You're going to hear your true, authentic self. And to the
Hmm.
extent that we can then, when we hear it, do our best to abide by it, do our best to follow that,
Yeah.
that's where really beautiful magic starts happening in life. And I think for many of us who are in a dimming journey, it's because we don't really want to hear that. It's telling us to do something disruptive. And it's going
Yeah.
to get messy and unpleasant and uncomfortable and maybe expensive. It's going to disappoint some people, but it's the thing that's right for us.
Right.
And listening to yourself is the first really important step.
I love that. I love that. Now, can you tell us a little about the book that you've written and where we can find it?
Sure thing. So it's called Undimmed, the 8 awarenesses for freedom from unwanted habits. And it's in some ways my rewrite of the 12 steps. When I was
Hmm.
navigating that first year alcohol free, I had friends encourage me to go to AA and see if I could find community and relatability there. And I did explore the AA model and I did meet some wonderful people, but the actual steps upon which the community is based didn't really align with my experience. It felt very kind of prescriptive and black and white. And I didn't feel like I needed to surrender or have a diagnosis or a label to benefit from these changes going forward. So I took
Yes.
the 12 steps of AA and I copied them off the website and I put them in a document and I just literally started editing. And
Right.
periodically over 4 years, I edited them down to the 8 awarenesses. And the 8 awarenesses are much more about our own choices and freedom and agency and power to make changes from the inside out. So,
Yes.
for the many tens of millions of people who are in a place of curiosity about our habits, we
Hmm.
don't need a diagnosis. We don't need a label. We don't need to join a club. But we do want to reflect on, wow, is my life better clear?
Yeah.
Do I have the choice to craft a life that's more aligned with my own values? Have I
Yeah.
been listening to my intuition? Are there relationships that need tending to? Am I spending my time in a way that is true to my values? Am
Yes.
I being non judgmental with myself and others? Is there healing that needs to happen around old trauma? And then the
Right.
eighth one is, can I give back in some way? when I am in times and space of abundance, of service. And so the book takes you through a variety of stories and then practices for how one might use the eight awarenesses to change a relationship with any dimmer.
Yeah.
And it's really an invitation. I use the word we, not I, a lot because I really feel like we're all in this together. And it is a labor of love. It's a book that I wrote because I wished I had something like this for my own mom when she was struggling. She
Yeah.
never got help because she didn't self-identify as an alcoholic. And in fact, she
Hmm.
bristled at the term. And I was very resistant to making changes for many years because I only saw this black-white orientation that didn't work. And
Yeah.
so this is really intended to be a little bit of a gentler, softer, accommodating, and kind of flexible approach for people who want to make change from the inside out.
I love it. Now, where can people find this book?
Anywhere. It's sold in all of the online stores, of course, Amazon, indie booksellers, Barnes and Noble. If you look for my name or Undimmed, it will pop up. The release date is January 6th.
I love it. I love it. As
Thank
you
you.
know, when people look for you, where can they find you? Do you have a website and any social media handles that you can share with us?
I do. Thank you. My website has links to just about everything. It's myname.com, Cecily Mack, CecilYMak.com. There's some events there. I have a podcast. I do a Substack, at least bi-weekly, and a few other, kind of treats and nuggets you'll find there. Um, my social is also linked there, but if you're more comfortable just going straight to IG, it's at Clear Life Journey on Instagram and LinkedIn and all those places. I'm very easy to find.
I love it. Well, this has been amazing. I have to thank you for coming on this show and sharing your
Thank
story. It's
you.
not easy always really, open ourselves up and sharing our stories with people we don't
Yeah.
know or, people around the world. But, you've gone through a lot of crisis in life and you overcome your obstacles. And now, you've made your dreams become a reality by really, changing your life and making it the life that you want for yourself. And now you're out there and you're showing other people how to do it. So kudos for you
Mm.
able
Thank you,
to,
Stacey.
not just help yourself, but you're helping so many other people in the long run. And I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here.
Mm.
Thank you for sharing with us and,
Thank you.
and thank you for what you're doing. You're a wonderful person and I appreciate you.
Thank you, Stacey. Thank you for your work too. You do such a profound job of elevating such diverse voices and experiences. I really also honor you and thank you for including me and having me. It's been a delight.
Oh, you're very welcome. You have a great day.
You too.